Good morning and welcome to the 21st Annual Exhibit of Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. We've been here since 1995, 1994, discussing this technology on a yearly basis, the developments in the field, and we'll be talking to two specialists for our next interview, so have a seat, the drinks are on the house. I'd like to welcome on the stage right now Dr. Manfred Stefener, who is the chairman of the Working Group for Fuel Cells at VDMA, and Johannes Schiel, managing director of VDMA Working Group Fuel Cells. So, hello.
Hello.
Actually, we need no introductions, but first of all, Johannes, a description of the VDMA in general. Perhaps you could describe what exactly your organization is.
Yeah, VDMA is a huge industry organization. It's the German Engineering Federation, representing 3,100 member companies from the machinery industry. It's component manufacturers, system manufacturers, and also plant manufacturers from Germany, mainly with production sites in Germany, but also from other European countries.
And you, of course, Manfred, you are the chairman of the VDMA working group, fuel cell working group division. What exactly do you do there, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, so the fuel cell group, working group in the VDMA represents 65 companies and institutes, so this is a very important interaction between the companies in order to bring like the fuel cell industry forward. Yeah, so we have like specific working groups on the technical side where like certain definitions and standards are made and like an exchange of know-how and knowledge is done. And also like on the political side, we are doing like a lot of work to shape like the framework for the industry. Yeah. So there are regular meetings of these companies. And this is always like a very nice and pragmatic working environment. And I think like there's always like a good attendance of these groups, so I think there's a lot of benefit that people feel to have from the activity in the VDMA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see the members on the screen. So it's manufacturers of fuel cell systems, manufacturers of fuel cell components, and also application-oriented research organizations working in different project groups and task forces.
Now, we today, in another meeting, we looked back at the development of the fuel cell industry and discovered that around 2004 we were grossly optimistic. And currently, surprise, surprise, it's not the mobile applications we believed in 2004, which would be the big runners, it's the stationary applications. So part of what you do is actually to develop a survey and to study the development of the industry and also predict where things are going. So where are things going?
As we all know, the fuel cell industry is not yet a huge industry. It's still a growing industry from scratch. So we decided in 2011 that we would like to develop some kind of statistics and prognosis tool for the fuel cell industry. In VDMA, Working Group Fuel Cells, we concentrate on early markets and stationary applications. So we decided to ask our members and potential members from these applications, manufacturers of fuel cell systems, but also manufacturers of components, what the revenues, what the jobs are they receive with the production of fuel cell components, and also services around fuel cells. And so in 2011 it was still only a few million euros, and it was a very small industry where you couldn't really talk about revenues. of course, there were jobs, yeah, but they were more or less research-oriented jobs and revenues, if you call it revenue. And then again, we did this in 2013. So we decided to do it every 2 years. And in 2013, it was around 50 million revenue, and an expectation that in 2013, so for 2012 and for 2013, the expectation was that we would make 100 million or above, a little bit above 100 million revenues in these two applications. So now we did this research, this survey again after 2 years, and now we found out last year was not such a good year. It was only 70 million euro revenues in these two markets. But we finally see some kind of breakthrough in this year. All expectations of all our members are expecting almost 80 or even more than 80% growth in this year in these two markets, early markets and stationary markets. And the long-term view for 2020 is still very good. In 2013, we expected almost 2 billion euro in 2020. Now the expectation is a bit reduced to 1.8 billion in the year 2020 in these two application fields. And it's a rapid growth. So of course this depends on circumstances, but the circumstances are partly there, need to be further developed. But the industry is prepared, and the industry sees these sharp growing curves.
Yeah, so and maybe let me add some color to the numbers that are standing here on the slide. So even if we had like a certain stagnation over the last years, we still saw like in the last year certain companies, like especially in the early markets, that really stabilized the revenue, so that had like also record revenues for their company. And there you see like a stabilization or like even like a significant growth of revenue, and that's, from my point of view, like a very good base for the fuel cell industry. We see that also like the stationary home applications are making a breakthrough. So we had like a few weeks ago like a big trade show, ISH, for the heating industry, and there were like several companies like presenting products. So one of these companies was my company, Elcore. So where we presented new products, and there's like a clear expectation that for CHP, which is a very important field for the industry because of its efficiency, of its like significant CO2 reduction potential of like between 40 and 50%. So it's a core application for the Energiewende, and also like in the heating industry. So everybody says that if you look like 5 to 10 years down the road, there will be in every home like also like electricity generator, so including like the CHP component. So that's a big trend in the industry, and I think this is also reflected like in the growth of numbers that is expected here in the survey.
You yourself, of course, are a businessman, and an example of someone within the organization VDMA, and also you have your business, Elcore. So you are sort of the first person I would ask this question to. How does the cooperation between members and the larger organization occur? Do the members come to you? Do you address the members? And what sort of sharing of competence or information happens there? And do you also address outside people, for instance, politicians, the larger public, to inform on what the industry is doing?
Yes, of course. We're doing basically all of that. So there's like basically two big sections. So one of them is like the technical side of the industry, where, for example, very important is, for example, bringing the cost down of like components. So there we involve like certain suppliers. There are many projects and groups. So we define like certain standards, like volumes, expectations, that the cost of certain components come down. So there's also like sharing of information. Of course, there are always boundaries of every company, so that in terms of sharing of information, but So we try to be as open as possible to drive the industry forward. And also, of course, on the political side, there are many activities and also cooperation. So if I speak like for the stationary applications, so like VDMA and, for example, the Initiative Brennstoffzelle IBZ are cooperating very closely, and we clearly see successes here. Yeah, for example, last year, so we had the activity of the VDMA, the Minister of Energy, yeah, and so economy and energy on our booth. And we could discuss like very important points. Last year it was like in discussion the renewal of the EEG law, so which could have, so if it would have been like gone in a negative way, a very severe negative impact to the industry. So and this is, for example, so by this discussion and many others, of course. So we could avoid that, and like the EEG law was then for stationary home applications very positive. Yeah. So and other things are that so we are working in terms of getting like a technology introductory programs that we call the TEP. Yeah. So which is a 400 million program, and there we're getting now like very positive indications from the German government that this will be like introduced for stationary fuel cells. So these are like some of the examples that we are working on in the VDMA.
Yeah, to shortly summarize how we work, we have these 65 members. They meet annually in a large meeting, the General Assembly, and there we decide together with the board of directors of VDMA Fuel Cells what the tasks are for the upcoming year, and then we work in project groups or task forces. Actually, now we have 4 task forces. One is for hot temperature fuel cells, a technical task force discussing SOFC technology mainly. One is for low temperature fuel cells discussing PEM and DMFC fuel cell issues on a technical side. And then we have a task force dealing with stationary application. And for the early markets, we work closely together with the Clean Power Net, where the backup power manufacturers are organized together with the owners of the backup power systems. Mm-hmm. So that's probably what describes how we are organized best.
Mm-hmm. And there is a clear focus among you all that it's stationary applications. That's sort of the main focus.
Well, the focus is stationary applications for households and stationary applications for combined heat and power on a larger scale. And of course also APUs, also auxiliary power units.
Backup power.
And backup power, all what is more or less called special markets, early markets, or however you call these. Also special cars like the forklifts applications and such things. What we do not concentrate on is fuel cell cars. They are simply not organized in VDMA fuel cells. But of course, we represent a bunch of 30 component manufacturers also active in the car industry. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So producing components for fuel cell cars. But the car manufacturers are not organized in VDMA, therefore we do not concentrate on transport applications.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask this question. The stationary applications, of course, they have a particular bonus right now, which seems to be represented in your focus, a large focus on the stationary applications. Namely, for those who've not noted, these units are becoming financially viable. Most people do heat their homes with natural gas. It is still widely available. There is a grid that distributes that form of energy. And we used to be purists at this stand here. 10 years ago, everyone wanted pure hydrogen. We didn't want to use the hydrocarbons. But we're stuck with this energy form. And we often got the question, well, why use hydrocarbons at all? Of course, it's very unrealistic to assume we can jump from one energy to where's the next step. And it's a wonderful transitionary technology, but my question is, I suppose, very specific here. There does not seem to be enough public awareness that if you install one of these units in your house today, you are going to be able to finance that unit and at the same time drop your emissions by 30% because they're simply more effective. And I don't think this message has reached the public, particularly because they always add, well, the units are more expensive. Well, when you buy a roof on your house in Germany, you don't buy one that lasts for 5 years, you buy one that lasts for 20 or 50 years. And this initial investment is part of a homeowner's mentality here. You don't build for 5 years. So why has this breakthrough to marketable technologies, why hasn't it reached the public's ear? Do you have any short explanation for that?
So it would be good to hire you as a salesman because so you're representing the technology very well. But that's exactly the task that we have now. So to educate the public, so that now after generations of having just a heating system in the cellar, having also like an electricity generator in the cellar, and to be like, in part at least, responsible for your own generation of electricity and heat, and with this component, a CHP component, to be first of all significantly more efficient. So and 30% reduction is the minimum that you can get, dependent on how you structure basically your home appliance. It can be even more, up to % or even more. And of course, so like the systems coming like into like a price range where amortization times are pretty low, yeah. So and that that are partly more attractive than you saw like in the past with PV or something. So and this message, I 100% agree. So has not like completely reached like every end customer. So there is sales, yeah, there is growing sales that you can see. But of course, this message have to spread out in the industry to the end customer through the sales channels. So and that's really an important task that we have to achieve now.
I think whatever fuel we use, now we are using natural gas. Maybe in the future we use more biogas or even hydrogen. But whatever fuel we use, we need to use it most efficiently. And that's what fuel cells are, be it in the stationary or other applications. And therefore, we really need to make this energy transition, this energy Wende, to focus not only on power. We also need to focus on heat, and most efficient production of power and heat is in fuel cell systems. Therefore, we do these statistics not just per se to show how big an industry we will be, but we just wanted to show that apart from just being most efficient and most reliable and most green, we are also something to not to ignore as an industry. So we are becoming an industry now.
We've unfortunately run out of time, but on the nature of the question of information, you can follow Manfred and Johannes. There's a press meeting, I believe, right around the corner in the press room.
It's in room number 415 on the top floor in that corner. Yeah. So please follow Manfred and me if you are interested. Then we can discuss more details about the statistics, the prognosis, and so feel free to contact us. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, Manfred. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please follow Dr. Manfred Stefener and Johannes Schiel in that direction to the press conference. We're going to keep on stage. Up next, we'll be talking to Phil Dorn from ITM Power, generating first PEM power to gas plant. So stay tuned, have a drink there on the house.